Buying a house is seen as the ultimate form of success, but is it really, or could renting actually be much smarter? So in this video, I will walk through the pros and cons of renting versus buying, the hidden costs that most people don't think about, and the questions I think you need to ask yourself when making that decision. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Pav. I'm a qualified accountant that spent over a decade working in finance in London before leaving that career and taking a 30% pay cut to do a job I enjoy instead. And I almost bought a flat in my 20s because that is what I thought I was supposed to do. But after running the numbers and asking myself some tough questions, I pulled out of that purchase, and that decision completely changed the direction of my financial life. Buying a house isn't always an asset because the truth is that the house or flat you live in doesn't generate you an income. Instead, it costs you in the form of mortgage payments, insurance, repairs, service charges if you live in an apartment, and all of these are costs that force money to leave your pocket. Whereas renting that same house or flat could cost you a lot less in the form of lower rent versus a mortgage, and without the cost of repairs, maintenance, and insurance that you wouldn't have to pay if you didn't own it. And of course, this isn't true for every single house or flat. There are many factors that go into the valuation of a property or its rental value, and there will be some houses or flats out there which are cheaper to buy versus renting when looking at the monthly costs alone. But the point is, it's important to go through the exercise and calculate what the cost of each option is and use that to determine which option is right for you and your financial goals. Now, as a guide, your essential living costs should be no more than 60 to 65% of your take-home pay, and your rent or mortgage will make up a significant portion of your essential costs. So it's important to take that into consideration when deciding which option is right for you. Another thing that not many people consider is what I call the capital trap. Buying a house ties up a huge amount of your capital or cash savings in the form of a deposit. And in the UK, that could easily be £50,000 for an average home. And once you buy a house to live in, that money is handed over and locked into bricks and mortar. And while it's locked in, it's also not generating you an income. But what if you invested that £50,000 instead? For example, if you invested the same £50,000 into an index fund and it earned you a 6% return per year, that's £3,000 a year or £250 a month. That could be enough to cover the cost of your groceries or an essential bill or travel costs each month. Or if you want to invest in your own skill development and take a course or start a side hustle that required some capital investment upfront, you could use the cash you have available to help you do that, which would then generate you an additional income stream. And that is something you won't be able to do if all your capital is tied up in a house. When I was in my 20s, I almost bought a flat to live in, and that's because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. But after running the numbers and realizing that I was actually going to tie up a huge amount of my savings into this flat, I decided to pull out and not go ahead with the purchase. And it was that single decision that allowed me to take my savings, invest them, build a property portfolio, which gave me the freedom to walk away from my career in finance and take that pay cut to do a job now that I enjoy instead. So when you buy a place to live in, it's not just the mortgage you're committing to. It's the opportunity cost of the deposit and what else you could do with that money instead. And on top of the deposit, there are also big upfront costs associated with buying. And the most significant is stamp duty, but there are also things like solicitor fees, surveys, mortgage fees, lender fees, which can all add up to be significant. And essentially, all of these costs should be added to the cost of the property because they are part of the real cash outflows that you will have to incur to buy this property. And another risk that not a lot of people consider is that you're also exposed to interest rate fluctuations. When you buy a house, you have the option to fix the interest rate on your mortgage for a period of time, typically 2 to 5 years. For example, if your mortgage is £250,000 and your mortgage rate is fixed at 3% per year, your mortgage cost will be £7,500 per year or £625 per month. However, when that fixed term is up, you will have to agree to a new interest rate, and that will depend on what the interest rate the banks and lenders are offering at the time. If they've gone up to, say, 4.5%, for example, the new cost of your mortgage will be £11,250 per year or £937.50 per month, meaning your monthly essential living costs will have increased by £312.50. And your mortgage is a cost that you have to pay each month. You can't negotiate new payment terms with the bank. That is money that is guaranteed to go out of the bank every single month. And so if it goes up significantly, it could have a major impact on your freedom and choice. So whenever you hear somebody say that renting is a waste of money, they may not be taking all of the above into account. Now, renting can get a bad reputation, but it does come with its advantages. When you rent, you have a lot more flexibility. For example, if you need to move to a different city for work or studying, you can do that much more easily. Or if you want to keep your essential costs down, you can leave where you're living, move into a new place a lot more easily that you can't really do once you've bought a place. There are also lower upfront costs. So to rent a place, you only need a tenancy deposit, which is usually 6 to 8 weeks of rent, whereas to buy, you need 10% of the value of the property, and that will be much more. And your outgoings will also be a lot more predictable too, because you don't have to worry about repairs or maintenance. For example, if your boiler breaks down, your landlord would have to cover that, and you don't have to worry about it. You also have the benefit of being able to invest the difference when the cost of renting is lower. However, buying does have its place too. It can offer a lot more stability because when you own a place, your landlord can't ask you to leave. And if you've got a family with kids, for example, that might be something that's really important to you. House prices do generally increase over time, and combined with your mortgage repayments, you will build equity in your property over the long term, although it might just be slower than other investment vehicles. And it can also just give you mental and emotional satisfaction knowing that you have a place that's yours and nobody can take it away from you. And the benefit that has on how you feel emotionally can be significant too. But I think rather than asking yourself the question, is renting bad or is buying always good? I think there are some better questions that you can ask yourself. So things like, what are my true essential costs? Will buying increase them so much that I feel trapped and have no freedom? How long do I plan to stay here? If you can't see yourself living there for the long term, in other words, at least 5 years, renting may be smarter. What's my priority? Is it freedom or stability? How could I use this money differently? Would investing my deposit elsewhere give me more freedom sooner? So renting or buying isn't about one being right or the other one being wrong. It's about making an intentional choice that is right for you, your goals, and what you're trying to achieve. Because real freedom doesn't come from owning a house. It comes from making choices with your money that align with the life that you want. And if you found this useful, please don't forget to subscribe, and you may want to check out this video where I talk through some simple practical steps that you can take to start creating a life of freedom and choice for yourself, and I'll leave the link to that here.